Alright, today we're going to take a quick look at Google Analytics. Most of you out there are probably already using it, or at least have it installed on your site and may not realize it, and if you're not, you likely should. There are certainly some other decent options out there, but Google Analytics seems to be by far the most popular. It's very powerful, it's free, it's an excellent way to track traffic on your site. So if you're new to Google Analytics, this quick video will hopefully teach you some of the things you can do with it. So if you go to google.com/analytics, and click the big blue Access Analytics button. It'll take you into your account, and from there you choose, it may just take you straight to your profile if you only have one, but we'll go into here. Once that populates in, we'll choose exactly which site we want to look at. So again, in most cases you'll just have one site. I have a bunch here just because I manage a bunch of sites, but in most cases, here we are on this site. This is my football referee site. It's kind of a fun one just because traffic goes way up and down. It'll be even bigger this Sunday with the game starting, and gets tiny in the off season. It's just kind of a fun one to look at in analytics, but we'll go through and I'll show you some of the things you can look at. By default, it shows you the last 30 days worth of traffic. This is how many visitors a day, down to 161. Looks like our high is like 500 or so. Again, in the summertime it's funny because it's like 3 and 4 a day, but you can change the time frame you're looking at. Again, it's 30 days, not necessarily what you want. I may want to look at last month. So you can click that little arrow and then just click August, and I can see just the August stats. Again, you can see it's a little lower before then. Or maybe I want to go back further, so I can click that arrow and then go back and say, let's go this year so far. So let's click January 1st, and then we'll go through the end of August, to August 31st. So we'll click that, you'll see, there's when football season ended. Boom! Hopefully your site doesn't look quite like that. But that's a lot of little dots to look at, so we can say instead of graphing by day, let's graph by week. And so it gets you a little smoother look at what's going on, kind of ramping up. But you can even say month by month and see what you got. Again, if you go over a longer period, doing some of these to kind of smooth out the graph helps. We'll go in a little more, a few other things you might want to look at when using analytics. The Visitors tab on the left has got some good stuff. Again, it gives you the total number of visits to your site. The absolute unique visitors, which is guessing, 30,000 people visited the site 49,000 times. So they each visited on average 1.5 times. It's a bit of an estimate. It's hard to determine for sure who's unique, but they do a pretty good job. Page views are how many pages people looked at on the site. Then quick math here, average page views per person. Time on site, obviously how long they stayed on the site. Again, it's a bit of an estimate just because of the way websites work, but it's gives you a good idea. Bounce rate is what percent of people. A bounce is when someone visits your site and leaves immediately without visiting another page. So typically a lower bounce rate is better. Not always. Like if you have a church site and people search for VBS in Atlanta and they find your site and it takes them straight to the VBS page and they get what they want and they give you a call, they were successful, but it'll show up as a bounce because they didn't look around. Again though, most of the time bounces are bad, but 32 is relatively low. A lot of my sites see in the 40s and 50s. Going through some of these now, the map overlay is kind of interesting. Based on their IP address, you can see where people came from. I had 80 different countries, but really almost all of them from the U.S. And then you can click on a country to drill down. You can see which states people came from, and then you can click on a state and drill down and see which cities people visited from. Again, based on their IP address, so it's not perfectly accurate, but it gives you a pretty good idea. Let's see, browser capabilities is always kind of interesting. You can see what browsers people are using. Internet Explorer, of course, is still the big one. Firefox is less. And this will vary from site to site. Your more technical sites will tend to have more Firefox and Chrome. Mac-oriented sites will have a little more Safari. But this is probably pretty typical stats, I would think, that you'd see across. And you can look, there's other options in here. You can look and see what your visitors had. Traffic sources is a very useful one. This tells you how people found your site, which, of course, you want more people to find your site, so knowing how they got there initially is very important. In the case of this site, we get a lot from the search engines. 71% from search engines. Direct traffic means people either typed in the name of your site exactly and came to it, or came maybe from an email on their computer because it wouldn't be a referring site. Like if it was in Outlook and they clicked the link, it would look like it was a direct hit. Maybe from a newsletter you sent out, something like that, or a link from a friend. And then referring sites are other websites that link over to yours. One other thing about direct, this could also be Twitter or Facebook for that matter. Will show up in referring sites if they're on the Twitter site and click through and visit you. But if they're using a program like TweetDeck or one of those and they click the link, it'll look like a direct hit. So you have a little bit of both. if we go into some of these, though, it's kind of neat. You can see, like on the referring sites, which sites send you the most traffic. In Google, we're listed a few places there. The Colts Forum apparently links to us a good bit. There's some Facebook, Saints Report, Wikipedia. We're listed on a Wikipedia page. A variety of things there. Keywords, I love. I love this report just because you can see all the keywords that brought people to your site. And I love to see a wide variety of keywords. Google searches total, 300 million a day or so. And they've said that up to 25 million searches are brand new, that have never been searched before. People search for a ton of different things, long queries, and the more of those you can capture, obviously, the better. And the longer their search terms, the more likely you have what they need. If someone searches for baseball and finds your site, who knows what they were looking for? But if they were looking for children's baseball in Kennesaw, Georgia, at a church or something like that, and found you, well, you're probably exactly what they were after, and that's excellent. But again, you can go through sorted by number of visits. You can also sort. I like sorting by pages per visit. This kind of shows, someone looked up current NFL officials' crews. One guy did this year, but he looked at 151 pages while he was on the site, so that's kind of cool. Who refed in the Baltimore Raiders game? They spelled ref wrong, I guess, but still, it looked 100 pages, stayed for about 10 minutes. It's pretty cool. So you can get a lot out of that. I always tell people the one problem with this is you don't know what search terms people are putting in that they're not finding you with, because obviously they're not coming to your site. And so it's always important to remember, sort of try searches, think through your site from the eyes of a visitor. If I was new to this town, how would I look for a church? Or, if I wanted to find information on referees in this case, what would I be typing in? And try search and see where you come up, and then you can kind of tweak your content to adjust accordingly. The last thing we'll look at here is content. It's nice to know how people got to your site, but you really want to know what they're looking at too. And so the main thing I look at here is the top content. And this just shows you what pages people look at the most. And on almost every site, you'll see just a slash as the first result. That means your home page. And most people look at the home page. But actually, my second one this year so far was the playoffs and Super Bowl crews. People looking to see who was going to be refereeing each playoff game and in the Super Bowl and stuff last year. It's almost 30,000 views. And then the active refs page is one I have that lists just all the active crews. And that has a lot. And then the rest kind of go down different referees and stuff. And again, this is, 1,000 different pages. On a blog, you tend to have a lot of dynamic pages and really quite a lot of content there. And it's nice to be able to go through and just see what people are looking at the most. You can look on your site and say, holy cow, they're looking at our directions page a ton. We better, make sure it's polished and accurate, and maybe add a new map to it. And the pages people use a lot, you can put more time into. And if you look and see that people aren't using a page much, you can look at, figure out more ways to link to it to promote it more, or maybe just decide, what, it was a fun experiment, maybe we don't need that page. You can get rid of it. So it's a good way to see the kind of content you have and play with it from there. So anyhow, that's a quick look at Google Analytics. If you don't have it, again, I highly recommend you sign up. It's free, it's easy, and can give you a lot of great content. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.